So I thank everyone for joining today's session. Apologies. Today's topic, the laws of karma. It is one of the interesting topic that we'll be discussing. So a brief introduction, then we'll jump into the topic. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So there's a saying that as you sow, shall you reap. So whatever you have done in your previous life or at any state of your life, that will revert back to you. Then there's a Newton's third law of motion, which says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And understanding the complexities of the science of karma, because the science of karma in itself is a very complex subject matter, and a lot of time we see people they're confused with it, and they are unable to reach to a proper conclusion on how we can really understand this subject matter. So I chose this topic because many of us come across the laws which are working, because ultimately everything happening within this world is governed by the principles of the laws of karma. So everything is actually covered, and all of our life we keep on doing different karmas. We keep on performing different activities in different manner, and everyone has a different set of understanding regarding the activities that all of us perform. So this is a brief background. We'll be studying our Vedic knowledge. We'll get an insight of the Vedic knowledge, what Bhagavad Gita has to speak on it, and then what is the practical implication of that knowledge, and as I mentioned, how by practical and realistic implementation of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we can actually change the destiny. We have a power to change the destiny, but for that we really need to deep dive into the philosophy, and then we can understand the intricacies of the laws of karma. And then if we consciously work on that philosophy, then there's a good scope for bringing a change in your destiny. So let us see how that can really happen. Content. So a brief content discussion about all topics that we'll be uh, discussing today. First is award of different bodies. So we all have different bodies. Every individual is unique. Every individual has got different set of bodies, and as we know that like there are millions of people all over planet, and I think it is a saying that maybe one or two people has same faces. Otherwise, everyone is unique in their way. So we all have a different set of bodies, and we all live in a different circumstances, different situations. Then a challenging proposition. So when as we got once we get the body, we perform actions, and when we perform actions, we at times get into confusions. We are unable to reach to proper conclusion, and really perform the right action in a right spirit, or whenever we make an endeavor to perform the action, we 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 are mostly confused. So how we can get rid of that confusion and really perform the action in a right spirit? Then Vedic wisdom, what our Bhagavad Gita is talking about it, what our Vedic knowledge, what kind of insight that our Vedic knowledge has on this subject. Very briefly, we'll be touching some aspects on there. Then we'll be talking about the principle of performance of duty. We all have to perform duty within this world. So what is the benchmarking and governing principle when we perform duty within this world? Then we have art of all key work, or art of all the work. We keep on performing different work, different activities. So what is the art behind by which we can actually change the destiny? And then key takeaway. What is the final lesson that we can take with us during from this seminar. So we all have been awarded different bodies under the supervision of the Lord, because ultimately Lord is there on the back of everything. So we, like, some are beautiful, some are ugly, some are okay, some are normal, different people, different bodies, and everyone is unique in their own way. And we have got these different bodies on the basis of actions that we perform. We all perform different set of actions, and we all have got different set of bodies on the basis of action that we have performed. So essentially, it is a reaction. It is a reaction of what all actions we have performed. So the body that we get today is a reaction of all actions that we have performed in the previous lives. So we all have been awarded different bodies. Now, as soon as we get awarded these bodies, then what starts happening? We start making actions. We start doing actions. We start growing within this world, and we keep on performing different set of actions. And at every stage of our life, we keep on performing action. When we perform action, when we get into the society, when we start interacting with people, then we start having a tendency. We start, comparing ourselves with others. And once we start comparing ourselves with others, we try to evaluate. Okay, this person has this. Maybe one possibility is I cannot have this in my life. One possibility is I can have it. So, for example, if one person is very beautiful and I am ugly, then I cannot be beautiful. What he has or she has received by the reactions of his or her previous life, that's what she or he is today, and it cannot be changed. It's not that it can be exchanged. Like, okay, we all have been awarded different bodies, and on the basis of the bodies we start making comparison. And if we do not have something, we try to possess those things in our life. So I'll give you a example. Okay, let's talk about India and Russia. There's a difference between there's a major difference in a thought process between Indian and Russians. So, for example, in India, the beauty of a person is determined on the basis of the complexion. And complexion, if the person is white, then usually we consider that person as a beautiful person. And in Russia, it doesn't work like that. If it's not necessary that if you are white, then you are beautiful, and people are more attracted towards people who are not really white. So that's not the deciding criteria there in Russia. So things changes basis the place, basis the situation, basis circumstances. So we all have been awarded different bodies. On the basis of these different bodies, we start pursuing different actions. And once we start pursuing these different actions, we start making comparison. We like to have things which we do not have, and we make endeavor to possess those different things in our day-to-day lifestyles. So it's like things are programmed. So at one level, things are programmed. We have certain set of intelligence. So usually you cannot really make much changes within the intelligence also. If you have certain level of intelligence, you cannot bring a change in intelligence. Okay, a challenging proposition. Now, when we are talking about this laws of karma, as I mentioned in the beginning of my discussion, it's a little complex, it's a little challenging. Let us try and understand how it is challenging. Willful actions. So one action is the action which we perform on the basis of our intended will. Okay, I want to make a career in this specific stream, and I start acting in that direction. For that, if I have to make conscious effort, active effort, I am ready to do it. And I know I'll keep on pursuing it, and I'll achieve it. And many a times what we want, we easily get those things in our life. So this is termed as willful action. Willful action, we did something, we got it. Then second is forceful action. Forceful action is we are forced to perform certain actions in our life. We do not want to perform those actions, but we are forced because of multiple reasons. And like for example, everyone doesn't like to go to weddings, but most of the time we see people go out of social obligations, and they have to spend time and late evening coming, going there. They at times say, okay, we nothing really much to gain there, but they are bounded by a social system that they have to perform that action, which is okay. So it's like a force created by the social factor. We do not have the will to perform it, but we are performing it forcefully because we live in a certain set of uh, we live in a society, and the society has certain expectations from us. So to fulfill those expectations, we perform those forceful action which we really do not want to perform. Otherwise, we will think, okay, if we will not go in the wedding this time, then it may happen that if something happens tomorrow in our family, that person will not come to our family functions. So it will not lead to a good impression. We will lose social disconnect. This is a forceful action. Third is the social limitation. So willful action, we do everything willingly, and we achieve it, it's done. Second, we forcefully perform certain action because of the need of the society. Third actions, third action is the action we want to perform, but there are certain social limitations attached around it, and we cannot perform it. So for example, okay, let's take an example of a uh, uh, example of two a young boy and a girl. They both are in a college, and somehow the boy starts liking a girl. When a boy starts liking a girl, uh, and they both start liking each other, but because of certain fundamental reasons, they cannot really move forward in that relationship because of certain social limitations. It could be many different reasons because of which they cannot really move forward. So they have to, somewhere or other, they have to take a pause that yes, we cannot move further. So this is a social limitation factor attached to uh, most of us in the society. And then fourth is again a challenging proposition around this action that we perform in our day-to-day life. So limited dimension of knowledge. So limited dimension of knowledge is basically the action that we perform in our day-to-day life. We basically perform those actions uh, basis basis the limited level of understanding, basis the limited level of our purview of things that we can see, because we all can see things only up to a certain limit. Seeing means not just from the eyes, but from overall perspective. Like if we have this body, and in this body, if we are living, let's say for 60 years or 70 years, we know that okay, we can see, this is a limited dimension of our life, uh, in which we have probably spent 35 years, 40 years. So 40 years we have spent. On the basis of the experience that we get within those 40 years, we start drawing conclusions. And the experience that we get, okay, we meet different set of people within that time frame, and we get different set of exposure when we interact with people in the society, and that basically determines, okay, now this is what I really want to pursue, because this is what I have observed in the society, and basis my observation, I believe this is what I should pursue in my life. But there's a limitation factor around it, and let us understand it with the help of an example. Uh, so frog. There was a frog in a well, and I mean there was one frog, and one of the frog somehow from the ocean, who was living near the ocean, he basically came from the ocean to that frog who was living in the well, and he starts telling the well frog that I have come from this XYZ ocean, and that XYZ ocean is having insurmountable quantity of water in comparison to the water that you live in the well. So then I mean the frog who is there in the well, he can only make a limited estimate that okay, that that water in the ocean could be like this, nothing more beyond that. It can be maybe like this, nothing beyond that, because he's living in the well. He don't know what is there beyond well. So similarly, when we start evaluating our life, we start evaluating our life with this limited lifespan that all of us have, and basis that we start drawing conclusion. So this is a challenging proposition, and when we start drawing conclusion basis that limited level of knowledge, limited level of expertise and exposure, we accordingly want to perform actions without really getting into the after effects of those actions. We do not bother about after effects because we are thinking up to a limited dimension. We have seen, okay, a lot of people have grown, a lot of people have not really bothered about so many spiritual activities, but still they have really gone to the heights of their career. Let me also pursue that. They are the role model of my life. A spiritualist is not the role model of my life. So there's a limited dimension of their understanding and the knowledge and the experience that they have, on the basis of which they take decision. Yes, this is what I want to pursue, and this is what I want to achieve, and these are the actions. These are the set actions that I will be, I'll be performing over a period of time to, have a better life ahead. Moving further, Vedic wisdom. Vedic wisdom. Now we have Bhagavad Gita. We all know Bhagavad Gita has a very good description of the law of karma, action, reaction. Bhagavad Gita. When we talk about India, people are very expert in quoting one shloka that we have picked up for today's discussion, and I'm sure many of you might have heard it or read it somewhere or other in your life. Whether you have read Bhagavad Gita or not, still you must have heard or read it somewhere. कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भूर्मा te sangostva karmani. So this is one of the very famous shloka when a lot of people in India who believe themselves to be karma yogi, that okay, you just perform your action, that's it, and that's everything, that's their religion. So you have a right to perform your prescribed duty. Now you see a catch. You will observe a difference and a catch here in this shloka. The way people practice or think what Bhagavad Gita is saying, and the way it is actually mentioned here. We'll talk about it. Let us. So you have a right to perform your prescribed duty. So first principle that Krishna is telling to Arjuna, that we have a right to perform duty. We all have got this body. We have to perform duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the result of your activities. So we all get fruits of action, but here Krishna is putting a condition to that duties that you are responsible to perform within this world. That okay, fine, you perform your prescribed duty, but there is a condition to it. So people perform duties,
but they do not consider the condition factor. Then never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never to be attached to not to doing your duty. So it's a very interesting shloka, and it has a very good insight. We'll be talking about insight now, because if you look on the face of the shloka, then you may not really be able to gain much out of it, because ultimately how it has to be practically applied in life is probably different than what most of the people usually think. So now when we say action can be divided in three categories. As you can see on the right side, uh, the action that God is mentioning here in this shloka, it can be divided in three parts. One is the prescribed action. Prescribed action is the action that you perform on the basis of the body that you get. Because once you get a body, you start getting some responsibilities as you grow in your life. And once you grow at a certain ladder of your life, then probably okay, you it is your duty to start earning money. It is natural phenomena that okay, you have to get education, good education. Once you have good education, then you have to start your career, probably with a good job or starting a business or profession, whatever. So some action you are responsible to perform, so it can be termed as prescribed action. Similarly, it goes for females, or 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 the ladies who are not working. For them, so they are usually responsible for taking care of their family, and they it is a it is a very demanding and very challenging work that they perform by taking care of family stuff, which is a difficult action in itself. So it is their responsibility. They live in the family life and they manage family affairs. So one is a prescribed action. Okay, child, when the child is growing, for a child the prescribed action is he has to study nicely. Different age group, different prescribed action on the basis of the age group that you fall into, the family situations that you have. So it varies a lot. You cannot make it one set for everyone. It varies. There are degrees attached to it, and different people have different set of prescribed action to perform. Then second one is capricious action. Capricious action is okay. Prescribed action is an action performed in accordance with the Vedic injunction. Vedic injunction is saying us to perform the duty, to take care of the family. If you have entered into the family life, if you are a married person, then it becomes your duty to take care of them. You cannot escape yourself from that duty. It becomes your moral, ethical, social, Vedic responsibility to perform a prescribed action. If you are a young fellow, then it becomes your duty. And if your parents have grown up, they have retired, then it becomes your duty to take care of them. You cannot ignore them, you cannot bypass it. So this is called as prescribed action, which is done in line with Vedic injunction. Then second is capricious action. Capricious action is action which people perform uh, not in line with Vedic injunction. So there are things which should not be done, but people do it. Like for example, drinking liquor, eating non-veg, very basic. Then there's a big list around it. You can consider them to be falling under the category of sinful activities. If someone is uh, cheating someone, or if someone is trying to steal something from someone, these are the different actions that are performed within the category of capricious action. And then third is the inaction. Inaction is basically not performing your prescribed duty. Okay, fine, it might happen that you say I'm not killing anyone, I'm not drinking wine, I'm not eating meat, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything, it's just fine. I'm not disturbing anyone. So that proposition is also not good. that is inaction basically. And inaction is also a, uh, inaction is also not a good act. So let us understand it with the help of a very simple example. Okay, when you are driving a car and when you are standing on a red light signal, on the red light signal there is a red light, you are standing there. As per the law, you are supposed to stand when there is a red light. So you are following the action, you're following the law. That means you are performing a prescribed action. This is a first action on the left side, the prescribed action. You know that it's a red light, let me stand here and let me not jump off the red light. It is my duty to abide by the law as a citizen, and let me follow the law. Second is capricious action. Capricious action is an action when you are performing an action which is not correct. You're jumping off the red light. When there is a red light, you're standing, it is fine, you are following the law. When you're jumping off the red light, then what is happening? Then you are breaking the law. That means not following the verdict of law. So that would term as capricious action. And then third is inaction. Inaction is okay, now there was a green light, but now that green light has changed into, sorry, there was a red light got changed into green light, and once it is green, it becomes your responsibility to actually go. But you say no, I don't want to go, I'm just standing here, I don't want to go. So I became inactive, I did not perform the action. So as soon as you stopped performing in action, it can create a big chaos there by a lot of people standing on the backside and waiting when you will be moving from there. So this inaction is also a not good deal. So these three possibilities, and we can accordingly, when we are performing action within this word, we need to decide which action we want to perform. Okay, when it comes to the laws of this word, like I took the crude example of this jumping of the red light or not jumping the red light, or even if there is a red light, not moving. So for example, in this word, if you do not do things in the way it should be done, if the law has a mandate that you should not move on the red light, and if you move, okay, you will be, nobody will watch you, probably nobody is really standing there on the red light to see what is happening, it's fine, and people keep on jumping the red lights, it's not a big deal. But when it comes to the law of God, the law of God is very particular. Everything gets noted there, and when everything gets noted there, whatever you do is being under record, it is under record, everything is piled up there. So be it is a good action or a bad action or inaction, everything is getting recorded. So in this word, when we say in this word, you can escape the law, but there is no possibility for an individual to escape the law of this material, the laws that has been given to us by God. Okay, so this is a famous shloka, karmanyavadhikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phal heturburma te sangastatva karmani. So we'll be discussing more about this shloka later on. So I have given you a brief perspective of what is the meaning of action, how action can be split into three different categories, and basis that a proper reaction comes to us. So prescribed action, capricious action, and inaction. And then within prescribed action also there are different segregations which we can discuss later. Okay, then we have art of all work. Art of all work. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukruta dushkrate tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu poshalam. This is very famous line. And here is a change. Here's something new coming into picture. And if you if you get to it, if you understand what new is coming here into picture, then there's a wider possibility for you to change your destiny. So a man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reaction. Okay, this is something that I like very much. So good and bad reaction. So if you do something good in this world, what is good? Good is okay, fine. I open some charitable hospitals. I did some other philanthropic activities. I gave food to a poor person. Then all this turns into a good action. You did something good for the society and you should be rewarded. Okay, fine. You may not be visibly rewarded, or you might not be rewarded within this lifespan, but you will be rewarded for that. You have performed a good action, you will be rewarded, and the reward would be good reward. And then there are bad reactions. Bad reactions means if you did something wrong, if you killed someone, if you committed any sinful activities, then there will be bad reactions to it. So good reactions and bad reactions. And now what is mentioned here? If you start engaging yourself in devotional service is independent of good action and bad action. This is a very, very important thing to demarcate. We have to make this demarcation, because usually people think, okay, you are doing devotion or you are engaging yourself in worshipping the Lord, then it is a good action. It is not a good action. So many times people tell us, okay, you are doing bhakti. That means once you are doing bhakti means you are actually performing good action. No, good action is independent. Good action is independent. Devotion is independent. It is clear from this shloka itself, because here God is saying a man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. अब यहाँ पे sorry. So here is an interesting. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Very important line. So kaushalam means, kaushalam can be translated in different ways. Kaushalam means basically the auspiciousness. Kaushal is also being translated as auspiciousness, and then kaushal means expert, being an expert in what you really do in your life. So one has to strive for yoga. Strive for yoga means, in a layman term, yoga is basically reconnection. Like we earlier had talked about it. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. This is simple addition. So therefore, strive for yoga. That means, therefore, perform your action in a manner which is acting on the platform of yoga, by which you are reconnecting yourself to that divine supreme personality. And once you connect yourself to that divine supreme personality, the outcome would be that there won't be any good action or bad action anymore, or there won't be any reaction to those action or reaction. I mean, if you will do good, you will not suffer for good reactions. If you do bad, you will not suffer for bad reactions. So a man engaged in devotional service, that is the precondition. And when you start performing yoga is reconnecting yourself with super soul. We are not talking about the yoga being practiced in today's society for maintaining the health. That yoga practice is entirely different than the yoga practice that Krishna is trying to teach Arjuna in this shloka. So that yoga practice has nothing to do with this yoga practice. We'll talk about it later in our next discussion how it is. So we are quite early. We are near to the conclusion. I'll help you to understand the now some key aspects of action. First is the fundamental rule. We have to perform action. We have to perform our duty. So if there is a mother, then it is a duty of the mother to take care of the child nicely. There is no option available for a mother to not to take care of the child. So this is a performance of action. If there is a family man, he has a duty to earn to the extent possible to manage family nicely. It goes without saying. It is a default pattern that all of us have in our social system, and one should abide by this social system or the social requirements that we have. If we have taken the obligation of being into a married life, then we have to fulfill that obligation. We cannot get rid of that obligation. And then second is strive for yoga. Strive for yoga, as I was discussing earlier. I'll give you an example through which you will be in a position to get a better understanding. Let me show this paper to you. I have this paper with me. I use these papers for making notes. So this paper I brought from the market. I purchased it from the market, and some XYZ person would have or company would have manufactured it, and they would have got a raw material for it, probably some raw material from the trees to manufacture these papers. And the tree is nothing but it's a combined form of Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash, the five nature, the five aspects of the nature. And ultimately, this five aspects of the nature are ultimately controlled or governed by, or are considered as energy of God. So if you try to go to the deep of everything that you do in your life, everything can be connected to its deeper roots. Everything has some or other origin, which will ultimately take you to basically the knowledge of science of God. And unless and until you do not take shelter of the science of knowledge of God, then you cannot reach to what is ultimate. You cannot understand what is the ultimate expectation, what is the ultimate connect. Like I told you about this yoga, ultimate connect of everything that we do is ultimately connected to super soul. So that is why we are saying strive for yoga. And as we saw in our this, so okay, before that, third is freedom from attachment to results. Now this is again little difficult, because when we were talking about the 2.47 shloka, so there God is clearly telling to Arjuna, okay, you have a right to perform your duty, but you should not be attached to results. How to practically apply that? We keep on performing our action. We always have expectation of what the result would be. And if we do not consciously keep on thinking about the result, we cannot perform the action. Result. We keep on thinking about result, and we always look forward to have a positive result in our life. Okay, I will do this, and I want that I will study hard in my career, and yes, I want to have a positive result. I should pass the examinations. That's what is the attachment to the results. Now, 2.48 of Bhagavad Gita, there again Krishna is telling, you perform your action without getting attached to either success or failure. You keep on focusing on what you are being asked to do. You keep on performing your prescribed duties. Don't get into this complexities. Okay, you know, if I will be failed in my attempt, what would be the outcome? If I'll be successful in my attempt, I will keep on I'll keep on again and again thinking, oh, I have become successful. And at times people become so excited in the zone of success that they stop thinking. Their brain stops thinking, okay, they have to move forward in their life. They think, okay, this is enough. I have become successful. That's enough. So it should not be like you either get attached to success or failure. You should be calm. You should accept both the realities of life. You should be in a position, you should have such equanimity in your mind. You should have that equilibrium that I am fine whether I have a success or failure in my life. It doesn't matter. I'm supposed to perform my prescribed duty. Now, what would be the outcome? Okay, fine. I'll make my best effort to perform the action for an intended result, but don't get attached. And the day you can practice this basic aspect in your life is successful. And to do all these three things, we need to have interference of God. Unless and until we do not have interference of God in our life, we will not be able to really perform intended action in a spirit it should be performed. And once we will try to perform our action keeping in mind all these three aspects, what would be the result? There will not be any reaction of the different sinful activities also that we keep on performing at every stage of our life. You won't believe when it comes to performing of sinful activities at every stage of our life, at every moment of our life, we are performing sin, and we cannot get rid of it. So there are some sinful activities which we perform at the conscious platform. There are some sinful activities which we perform at unconscious platform, but we keep on performing sinful activities. Now, even the society that we live in today, unfortunately, most of us do not have a proper visibility on what the sinful activities are and what the sinful activities are not. So once you start inviting God in your life, and once God starts interfering in your life, the result is that He Himself takes the charge of basically killing the reactions of those sinful activities from our life. So we have to give that interference to Lord. Once the interference would be there, then He will simply keep on cutting all those reactions with his sword of knowledge. Okay. So this is a brief. Next is an example. What is the final thing that we should do so that we can, live a peaceful life? We keep on performing. We continue to keep on performing our prescribed duties. There is no problem with that. We have different obligations. We have different responsibilities. But remember this one statement in your life, or this one equation of your life. So in the current situation, many of us has different set of possessions in different form. Okay, one possession could be in terms of our beauty, another possession could be in terms of our intelligence, another possession could be in terms of our academic education, another possession could be in terms of the assets that we have, another possession could be in terms of the good social connect that we have, or another possession could be that people know us and people respect us in the society. These are different possessions. So let us take this as one example. Every one of you can relate this to your life. We all have, like, if you look at the first one, the current situation, all these zeros are representing your different possessions. Okay, you have this, you have skill set, you have knowledge, you have intelligence, you have good house to live in, you have nice car, you have nice family. All these are simply zero possessions. So what we need to do, what is the expectation from this discussions, or what is the ultimate expectation of God from us, is you just do one thing: try to prefix 1 before 0. So right now zeros are there with many of us, but we have not really prefixed 1 before these zeros. And as soon as 1 comes before the zeros, all zeros will become highly valuable. So we are focusing on adding zeros in our life, but we have forgot to focus on adding 1 in our life. And unless and until 1 doesn't get added, the zeros have no worth. No matter how many zeros you keep on adding, there can be thousands of zeros, but those thousands of zeros will not have any value unless and until 1 doesn't come into picture. And what is that 1? That 1 is basically taking shelter of the knowledge of God. This is 1. And I sincerely request all of you to try and add 1 in your life as prefix in terms of establishing your relationship with God. And then God will take charge of, God will take charge of how your destiny need to be monitored or designed in a way which is more conducive, which is more favorable. And God will also take care of whatever possessions you have. And if you do not have anything, He will arrange it for you. And you will not even get to know how it is being arranged. But you need to give that interference to Lord. And Lord is waiting for us. Lord is waiting for all of us to give that interference. So work on this basically principle in your life, how we can have 1 as a prefix to these zeros. Having zeros is not a problem. Fulfilling all your duties, action is not a problem. But don't forget the basic rule of life, that there has to be 1 before these zeros. And once we will have zeros, then everything will fall in place. And if there will be lesser zeros, more zeros will get added. If you have less parameters to evaluate on your success in life, then more parameters will get added. You will not even get to know how those parameters got added. But yes, you will have to strive for this 1. And then when I was talking about strive for yoga, to perform your actions in a manner that those actions have some nexus or some connection with God in your day-to-day lifestyle. I have seen thousands and lakhs of people in society, and a lot of people I interact with, and I had interacted with in my entire career in last I would say 20 years almost. In those 20 years, I just simply observed that uh, people are busy in a lot of things, and people are simply busy in having this numberless zeros as the possession in their life, in whatever way they are, but their focus is just to have these zeros to get added into their kitty, and they don't know the concept of adding 1 before this zeros. And as soon as 1 comes into picture, everything is fine. And for that, we need to make some conscious effort. I'm failing to understand, unfortunately, why society is not ready to accept all these things. I mean, I'm kind of I see little I see it's a big irony of our modern civilization. I was speaking to a couple of people yesterday, day before yesterday, into the corporate world, and mostly everyone is telling that they have to work more than what they were really working before. I mean, when they were actually working in the office, that time the workload was lesser than the workload that they have now when they are working from home. So their life at present is completely screwed up because nobody is focusing on what they should really aspire for in their life. Okay, so quickly to conclude, then I'll just share something very interesting and kind of one personal realization. Uh, the conclusion is the law of karma is slightly complicated. You have to perform your duties and action when you're living in this world. You don't have a choice. You have to perform your action in a way that you connect it with supreme personality of Godhead by performing yoga. When we say yoga, yoga is basically connecting everything with supreme personality of Godhead, because everything is originated from him. So we need to strive for that yoga by connecting your consciousness with super soul, and so you need to give some time for that. Freedom from attachment to real. Don't hanker for a basic fact. Okay, I am performing this action with the expectation that I should have something to get in terms of return. Don't wait for the return. Keep on continuing your journey with a you know a submissive approach, and things will start falling in place if you are really looking forward to have one as a prefix. And the day one will come as a prefix, your destiny will start changing. Once your destiny will start changing, then you you don't know where you will be tomorrow. You cannot even imagine. Okay, so I'm concluding my talk for now. I thank everyone for joining the session.